Oh, so getting a mortgage when you are self-employed is really stressful, it's really complicated, it's really hard, it takes ages. Oh, hang on. No, it doesn't, no. Come on, let me tell you why. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam, I'm an expert mortgage broker, and today you join me on the first of our new videos about self-employed and mortgages and all the things that you need to know. Now, today's video is all about self-employed sole traders. So if you are a limited company director or a contractor or something like that, this one isn't necessarily for you. Yours will be coming soon. In fact, if you've got particular questions, drop them in the comments and then I'll know exactly what to talk about when I do those ones, but they will be coming soon. But today is all about sole traders. So if you are one of the millions of people in the UK that run your own small business or large business, maybe you are a trade of some sort or just generally self-employed doing your own thing, then this video is for you. Now, people all the time that we speak to think getting a mortgage when you're self-employed is really, really tricky, really hard, really complicated. It's absolutely not. In fact, it's pretty much just the same as getting a mortgage if you're employed in a job and have a regular salary each month. It's just slightly different paperwork and slightly different figures that we're going to give to the mortgage lender. A few little different bits of paperwork and things that we need, but actually getting the mortgage and the lender's criteria and how they're going to process things and how they're going to treat you is just the same. So there's really nothing to worry about. Now I'm going to try and break down a few of the major points that we come across all the time in this video. So this is a little bit of a broad brush video for sole traders. We will drill down more over the coming weeks in some more videos. If you've got specific questions, please do put them in the comments, because then I'll know exactly what people are asking and exactly what we need to make videos about going forward. Now, when you are a sole trader, lenders are only interested in one thing, and that is your net profit. So your net profit is what is left, basically. So all your income comes in and then you have some expenses going out. What's left is your net profit. So your income comes in, that's your turnover. So you sell, well, let's think of an example. So you sell bananas for £1 each. That's your turnover. It costs you 50p to buy those bananas, maybe. Then it costs you an extra 10p to advertise them and things. You've got 60p of costs. So there you got 40p profit on that sale of that banana. Obviously other items are available to sell. First thing that came into my head. So that is your net profit there. So what's left after your turnover has come in and your expenses has gone out. And that is the amount that you're going to pay tax on. So there's a bit of a quandary here, because any accountant worth their salt will try and make sure that your tax bill is as low as possible. So make sure we put all your expenses through and everything that we can possibly imagine to reduce that tax liability. So your net profit is really important for that, for your tax liability, but it's also really important for how much you can borrow. And you, generally speaking, you can't have the best of both worlds. So you can't have a really nice low tax bill and still be able to borrow loads of money. We've got to balance off what we want. Now, another question we get all the time is, how long do we need to be trading for when you're self-employed? And the answer really is normally 2 years. Some people think that it's longer. So some people think, oh, I need 3 or 4 years or even longer trading history, but actually most lenders will only ask for your last 2 years figures. So it's not too long. Now, it can be done with less than that. So we help lots of people with as little as 1 year's trading history. That depends a little bit on what you've done before. So if we think of an example, if you are an employed electrician and you earn, I don't know, £40,000 a year, something like that, and then you go self-employed, perhaps you even do some work for the people that you worked for previously, or you get your own clients or whatever, but your first year of self-employed, you earn sort of 30 or 40,000 maybe. It's very similar to what you earned when you were employed. You're still an electrician, you've gone from one to the other. We will be able to find a lender, as long as you've got a little bit of deposit, we'll be able to find a lender, touch wood, that will help you with a mortgage. So you've got 1 year self-employed figures, but you've got you're an employed electrician, now you're self-employed, you do the same thing for the same kind of people, earn a similar sort of amount, we're going to be able to help you. If you are an employed librarian, for example, we'll use that, and you go then to be a self-employed electrician, that's going to be harder because you've got no track record, you've got no history in that line of work, you're starting from scratch. So that is going to be trickier to get a mortgage on just 1 year's account. So I'm not saying impossible, because there will probably be a lender to do it if you've got a big deposit and it's a low risk overall. Maybe yours isn't the only income on the mortgage application, but that is going to be harder to achieve. But generally speaking, most people will go from employed doing a job to then self-employed doing a similar job. That is going to be okay if you've got 1 year's history. It does give us more choice with 2, so we have much more choice of lenders, and we're probably going to get a better deal and probably be able to borrow more if we've got 2 years. So that's the magic number, 2 years. Now, when the lender gets those 2 years net profit figures, they are going to normally average those out. So this is how much we can borrow now. So let's say you earned £10,000 in year 1 and then £20,000 in year 2. We're going to average that out over 2 years at £15,000. And that is what most lenders are going to use. Now, there used to be some examples I could have given you where lenders would just take the latest year if it's gone up. Those are few and far between now. There is the odd one, but I would say it's with a lender that's not overly generous in the first place. So if your figures have gone, or your net profit rather, has gone up a little bit in the second year, you may well be best off with a lender that's going to average it out and still lend you more, rather than the lender that's just going to use the latest. If you've literally had a startup year and you've made £5,000 in year 1, but then year 2 is 50 grand, then obviously that's going to be a different scenario. But generally speaking, we're going to average out those last 2 years unless your figures, your net profit has gone down. If it has gone down in the latest year, then that's the figure they'll use. So they'll use the lower of the latest year or an average of the last 2. Now, that I said at the start that there's a few different documents and things that we need. So if you're employed, we would ask you for pay slips and things. When you're self-employed, we want a few different bits. Now, usually you can get these things from your accountant, but I'll also pop in the description below some instructions on how to actually get these documents from your HMRC gateway. We are after what we call your SA302 certificate, or tax calculation it's often called. Generally speaking, your accountant will be able to provide you with your tax calculation. Now, tax calculation, or SA302, is basically a summary of the income that you've earned from various sources, and it breaks down the tax payable on that. It gives you an overall figure. It's on one sheet of paper, so the lender can see it in one document. Your income, your tax paid, what's left at the end. Now, accompanying that document will usually be a tax year overview, a TYO. Now, that document shows us that you've paid your tax, basically. So when we look at last year's tax year overview, it will show you this was the tax that was paid, this was the tax that was owed, this was the tax that was paid, and then it should show a zero balance. If it doesn't show a zero balance, it means you haven't paid your tax bill yet. So the lender is going to look to make sure that that's the money you earned, that's the tax bill you had, and that's been paid. Now, if that doesn't need to be paid yet, then obviously that won't show a zero, that's okay. But if it should have been paid, then it needs to be showing as paid on your tax overview. Now, let's think about these documents a little bit more, because most lenders, there's the odd exception to this, but generally speaking, most high street lenders are going to use figures that are up to 18 months old. So when you're self-employed, it's not like when you're employed. You're employed, you get a salary every month. It's the same. When you're self-employed, your figures can vary from year to year. So they're looking at the whole year, not just currently what you earn. So you might be paying yourself £100,000 now because business has suddenly improved. But if you only paid yourself £50,000 in the last trading year, that's the figure that they're going to be interested in. So we need to watch how old these figures are. So 18 months. So when you're sole trader, you need to do your figures every January for the previous April. Now, that's quite a big gap. It's a long time between the end of April and then January for your tax return. However, that doesn't quite fit in with 18 months. That's too long. Once we get to October, so actually it's coming up to the end of August now, so we're not far off this. When you get to October, April the year before is too old. We need April this year. Now, you don't have to do your tax return and pay your tax until January. So we're a few months early, but if we need to use those figures for your mortgage, you're going to need to get them done. So we often have a bit of a period of time at the end of the year where actually we need your latest year's figures, even though don't have to get them done. So I always get mine done kind of as soon as the year finishes, really, as soon as we can. I mean, we're a bit different, we're a limited company, but similar kind of principle. We get our figures done as soon as we can in case we need them for borrowing. So if you are a sole trader and it's coming to the end of the year and you need a mortgage, you're going to need to get the most recent tax year figures done. So it's a little bit sooner than you might usually need. Now, don't worry, you don't need to pay the tax yet. It doesn't mean, just because you submit your figures doesn't mean you need to pay the tax any earlier. That's still January, but it just means that we get the figures done, they're submitted to HMRC, and we know what the year profit is, and we can then have the one before that as the previous year, and hopefully then we've got 2 good years. Now, we're also often asked about deposit and if it's any different if you're self-employed. The answer really is no. There's a few lenders who are a little bit more cautious if you are self-employed. So if you're self-employed, we can't go to everyone with 5% deposit because some lenders won't do it. But that's not the norm. You know, lenders don't discriminate if you're self-employed. We went through a bit of a phase, you know, when COVID was at its height and recovering from COVID, we did go through a bit of a phase where lenders were not so supportive of people who are self-employed or run their own businesses because things were so volatile. Now, however, we've kind of returned almost back to normal, I would say. So there's no real fear of needing to put down a bigger deposit if you're self-employed. So that's not really something we need to worry about. Okay, so that is a fairly broad brush approach on what to do to get the best mortgage if you are self-employed, but I want to know from you what else you want to know, what questions you've got, what problems you've faced if you're self-employed and trying to get a mortgage, and then we will do some more videos on each of the specific areas that we've talked about, and there's loads more to cover when you're self-employed. If you're still watching and you're a company director, then watch out for the next video in the next week or two. That's coming for you. Anything else you want to know, feel free to go and visit our website, book an appointment on there to talk to us. Hopefully we'll be speaking to you really soon. If not, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.